Welcome back to the Nullified Tech channel here on YouTube, where I've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 44 premiere night. That's right, we're back. And what an episode right off the bat. So much to talk about, and what I'm going to be doing this season here on the Nullified Take channel, for those that are returning to it, I'm going to do short form content in the way of top 5 talking points, and I'm also going to be covering it like I have been in previous seasons on the podcast Recap and Review with Jake, my co-host, so be sure to check out the channel for that in-depth review and recap of the episode as well. But for this specific series, we're just going to talk about the 5 things that stood out the most for me. Before we get into it, please consider subscribing, please consider hitting the like, putting a notification bell on so that you know when I go live or whenever I drop some more content in the future. And please be sure to also leave comments below with your own thoughts, like what did you agree on, what do you disagree on, what stood out for you in this episode. Okay, so talking point number 1. We nearly have 3 people out of the game in the very first episode. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. It's pretty unprecedented, but the opening scenes with them coming in, you could just see that the adrenaline was pumping for these people coming into the game. There's a lot of fans that want to play the game. They could hardly contain themselves, and the production team did a really good job showing us that. Carolyn couldn't say anything to the producers. She's going to be a character this season. You had everybody on the mat just wanting to go and start this game, and right off the gate, Bruce ends up injuring himself trying to go and do an army crawl underneath an obstacle. He hits his head and it is gushing with blood. Now, when this happened, immediately in my mind, I would have said stop the challenge. Let's check this guy out first, because there is such a thing as concussions, and he hit his head pretty hard. And they just said, keep going. And that's, again, the whole stay tough, this is Survivor type of mantra that's out there these days. But I thought player safety should come first. Now, I know that Jeff asked him throughout this, are you okay? Can you continue? And he said yes. But I don't think in this scenario you trust the player. I think you trust the doctor to go and assess him. And seeing a guy like Bruce go so early, he was someone I really enjoyed. When I looked at the preseason content and we got to know him, he seems like a very likable and nice guy. It was heartbreaking to see him go out this way. The second player here, and you know, this could have been another big player in this episode that we nearly lose, is Matthew. And Matthew is, off the bat, probably my favorite player in the Orange Tribe. I'm really enjoying what he's bringing. He's a bit of a free spirit. He's knowledgeable around camp. He's someone that helps them get things organized. And you can see that that Orange Tribe is really relying on him for that. He goes out on the beach and he climbs this rock. Who knows why? It looks like there may be something actually at the top of the rock. I don't know if it's a shell, maybe there's an idol in it. But he ends up falling down and, you know, injuring his shoulder, dislocating it, and he pops it back in himself. What a badass. But the doctors come there, they tell him he has to put it in a sling. So now they're at a disadvantage because he can't perform at the level that he wants to. And that was a big thing for Matthew in this episode, because he did the sweat challenge with Brandon to prove himself this episode, because he felt like the oldest guy coming in, he would have to prove himself. And you can see he's really emotional about it, because apparently he got in shape to go and play the show. So I would have hated for him to go out in such a manner. And then lastly, we had Brandon, another big player for this first episode, another person that I feel like when I did my preseason cast assessment and analysis with the guys on the podcast, I said he's a bit of a slashy, which means he's done so many different things according to his preseason content, and I thought maybe he'd be a little bit arrogant because of that. And I was wrong. I misjudged him, and that's why I love Survivor, because you make very quick, rapid judgments. But what a great guy, what a great character immediately, and he ends up getting overheated in the challenge and dehydrates in the immunity challenge. So many people nearly going down in episode 1. It was pretty crazy to follow. They could have effectively had 3 people out of the game without anybody getting voted out. Takeaway number 2. Let's talk about the birdcage. I think the birdcage is an interesting twist. And when I heard about it, there was rumors on Inside Survivor online that there's going to be this twist. There's going to be an idol in a cage, and if somebody gets it, they can choose to replace it, or they have to replace it, I'm not too sure, with this fake idol. Now, I don't normally like it when production tries to make fake idols and get in the game so they can get their own haha moment on the contestants. I feel like the players should do these innovative things, but I can't say that I hated the birdcage all that much coming into it. I was a bit skeptical on how this would play out on screen. And it did give us a lot of great strategic talk, and different people or different tribes tried to deal with it differently, which I thought was interesting. Obviously, the one that's the most interesting is the Orange tribe, because when they do get to the birdcage, they realize that they probably need a key. Like Yam Yam said, they can't use abracadabra on it to open it. And they all go and look for this key. And I believe it was Kane who said they all need to like work together so that at least if somebody finds it, they can't find it in secret, which was a great strategy. But ultimately, Brandon is the person who does find this key, but he finds it while Maddie is close by. She spots it. He doesn't immediately tell her that he's got the key. And at the point where he's like, okay, I'm going to have to come clean. She probably saw it. He tells her about it, and then she wants to keep it a secret from the rest of the tribe. Now, we've seen people and players do this in the past. It does bond them and solidify them as a potential alliance in the game. So I get what Maddie was trying to do here, but Brandon does not trust Maddie. For very good reason, because she looked like she was someone that was going to want to play this game at a very high intensity right from the start. So Brandon does go back to camp. He does tell everybody about it, which I do think is the correct play. You don't want to come off as untrustworthy in the first episode. And if Maddie went back and she used that information against them to say, Brandon's got this key, didn't want to tell you guys about it, Brandon becomes public enemy number one. And he is also the biggest, most physical guy out there. So it's not like he doesn't have a target on his back already. So it was interesting to see him go back, tell everybody about this key. They end up opening it in front of everybody. He gets a very public idol in front of everyone. And I think production must have been like, damn, we put so much effort into this thing. We wanted there to be a fake idol that gets placed back in the cage so somebody can get fooled. But now he has gone and broken it on day one. And I love it when production tries to do these things and sometimes it blows up in their faces, to be honest. Third, let's talk about the trip to this no-name island for this season. We've had, in the past, I think I've called it Shipwheel Island, but I don't know what this island would be called this time. They get a message from production. It's very, according to script, every season now, it seems that we've got the same things that we're going to be following. Sweat and Savvy is going to be a thing. They're going to have people come over and go to an island together with other tribe members to go and find some sort of an advantage that's basically given to them if they take a risk. I'm a little bit tired of having the same thing play out now for 4 seasons in a row. I don't know how you, the audience, feels about it. Let me know in the comment section below. I feel like they're running out of ideas, or they're just a little bit lazy, because the format and the structure remains the same. I'd like to see them innovate again. That's what made Survivor so great, is that we had different themes, we had different twists to the game that truly kept people on the tip of their toes. But I think production probably thinks that they are doing that by bringing a bit of a variation into this decision that needs to be made. There is actually no decision. They take the decision away from the contestants, and I like it when contestants have more options and decisions and they can play the game with those. I like the fact that they had to get to know each other in previous seasons and then decide would that person risk their vote or not. It was interesting to see if people could read others correctly. It was interesting to see them come up with alliances where they're like, I need the idol like Noelle, or I need the advantage, and then people give it to her and they potentially could form an alliance. But all of that's out of the window because they get forced to pick between these 3 different satchels, and one of them has got the advantage. The other 2's got no votes. So you've got a 2 out of 3 chance of pulling a no vote for the next tribal council in a tribe of 6 where your vote is so important. So basically, if I was out there playing this game, there is no way in hell I would want to go out there and risk my vote so early on, because I feel like it would be not only a big target, people know you're probably coming back with something, but there's this high likelihood you don't have a vote. And Matt, the poor fella, he pulls 2 no votes. So he's got no vote for 2 tribal councils. That's a massive disadvantage. The other 2 ladies, they do end up getting something from this, and they do get the advantages. Lauren's was probably the most interesting in the sense that she took it but didn't tell her tribe anything and didn't give any accurate information. Where at least in the case of Sarah, she did tell them a half-truth, but that she didn't get the advantage, I believe, if I remember it correctly. I've just watched the episode. So Sarah's got a brand new advantage in the game, which is the inheritance advantage. It means that if she plays it correctly at the right tribal council, she can get any of the advantages that is played at that tribal council. So she knows that someone is going to play an idol, she could play this and then inherit that idol herself, which I think can be very powerful, but you do need knowledge and you do need to use your skills within the game to understand when somebody's going to play an advantage. So I do like it. It could come back to be very powerful in this game. Lauren's advantage is the bank your vote advantage, which I also kind of like. It's two very innovative ideas for advantages. Basically, she has to not vote one tribal council and then bank that vote for another opportunity to get an extra vote. So it's basically having that extra vote in the game, but there is, again, a little bit of risk and reward with this in the game. So I really enjoyed both of these advantages being introduced to the game. But Lauren not telling her Orange tribe about what was going on there and not being truthful at all does come back to backfire a little bit on her, because at the immunity challenge, Claire, out of nowhere, who's sitting out with Matthew in the immunity challenge, provides a little bit of insight in regards to what happened on the island. And she says to him, did the person coming back to camp tell you about it? And Matthew gives the story, and she's like, that's not the full truth. This is what it is. So Matthew now knows that Lauren's a player, and he can't trust her in the game. Love this from Claire. Well done in bonding and creating these bonds with someone in the other tribe that potentially could become a cross-tribal thing when they get to the merge, because Matthew will learn that this was accurate information if he is in the game long enough, and if he gets to the merge, he now knows that he's got someone who is willing to work with him, which I really enjoyed. We see this all the time in Australian Survivor South Africa. Information gets passed between tribes within immunity challenges, and it's something that I really enjoy. I hope we get to see more of this in the US. I always used to think that maybe the US production team didn't allow them to talk in between challenges, but love this in this episode. Takeaway number 4. The purple tribe for me seems to be one with longevity and also potentially will be the most stable tribe. And I know it's hard to believe with Carolyn being in that tribe, but I really enjoy some of the characters in that tribe. We see the purple tribe in this episode go back. They end up losing that first challenge because they sort the puzzle and then it gets copied by, I believe, the green tribe as they're on their way to win this. And they fall behind in the ring toss at the end. Firstly, when we watch the challenge, I don't know if anybody else watches the challenge, normally when they finish the puzzles, you could just throw all the puzzles down and then move on to the next one so that somebody doesn't actually copy it. I hope Survivor allows for them to do it in the future so we don't get this type of cheating and stealing in the game. I say that, but if I was out there, I probably would have done that myself as well. Ultimately, they do end up last in this first spot, which means they don't even get to choose if they want to do Sweat or Savvy, which I think is another cool twist, that it automatically forces someone else to do the potential Savvy or Sweat challenge, depending on what the strengths of the tribe is that got in second place. So there's actually a benefit or a reward in getting second place in that first challenge. They end up having to do Savvy. We end up seeing Helen and Carson do that by having to count the amount of rings in the spheres that they have there. Interesting dilemma. I definitely would have tried to stay very far away from it. I don't think I would have been good at that. I would have rather done Savvy like the other tribe. But they end up getting it. They end up getting their supplies, which is great to see. And an alliance is formed within this tribe very early on that looks to be rock solid. And that's Carson, Sarah, and Helen. I like all three of them together. I think they're going to work really well together in this game. And then outside of that, you've got Yam Yam. We're all just living in his world right now because you know the producers are loving him. They keep going back to him for content. He's going to be a massive character this season, and you can just tell I think a lot of people are going to like Yam Yam by the end of the season. I'll just say that. I think he's going to have a lot of great energy. I think he's going to have a lot of good vibes out there. The opposite of that is Carolyn for me. And I'm sorry if Carolyn listens to this. You're probably the nicest person. This is, no reflection on you outside of the game. But on the show, I've got to say, she's way too much energy. And I'm not surprised that she's struggling to find her people in that tribe because she is bouncing off the walls. And everybody's just looking at her like, you're a lot. And I think that if you're out on the island, you're starving, you're deprived of food, she would be the first person to get on your nerves out there. Obviously, they end up losing Bruce, and I think that's another thing in the Purple Tribe that's really going to galvanize this team and get them together to work really well together in the future. So, high hopes for the Purple team. Hope they go well this season. Alright, fifth and final takeaway. We've got our dysfunctional tribe. Every season has them. This season, it's going to be Orange. There's some great stuff that happened in this episode. I mean, very early on, you've got Brandon and Matthew bonding over the fact that they've got to move these coconuts and they seem to really struggle. I mean, when you've got an athlete that has played at the highest level, American football, cramping up and sweating, hats off to Matthew for sticking in there with him, because clearly this was not easy to do. It may look easy on TV while we're having a nice Coca-Cola, eating our Doritos, but if you're out there, it's not going to be easy, right? And it was impressive to see them finish it. It was impressive to see that alliance forming, and I thought, wow, this is going to be rock solid. Brandon and Matthew together, working together, not many people are going to stop them. They might be like the Cody and Jesse of this season. And then by the time that they get back from the immunity challenge, when they lose, everything goes to hell in a handbasket, right? Because they go and have these conversations about who to vote for. Matthew tells them that Lauren's lying. Kane, Matthew, and Brandon are like, yep, we got to blindside her. Get her out of here. We don't want her with an advantage in the game. And then Maddie comes into the picture. And Maddie wasn't the target, but I think she made herself the target very quickly by just playing super aggressive. And I know that there's going to be a lot of fans that are going to say she's overplayed it. She probably did. But can you blame her? There's 6 people in the game. Like, I mean, she probably wanted to take control very early on. And if this move worked out, she would have been in a rock solid position. And she had the numbers. But a lot of people do crazy things this episode that I think makes it very obvious to Brandon he needs to play as idol. So they go to Tribal Council. By the way, love the Crusader theme that they have for this season. They've got the sword and the shield for the immunity idols. And you can see the Tribal Council is in like this castle setting, which is all very beautiful with a chessboard as they go and vote. Let me know what you guys think of it. I think it's one of the nicest themes. Why did they not call it something? Why didn't they do a theme season? I really missed that, Jeff, if you ever listen to this. You probably won't, but I really miss the themes. And ultimately, everybody just goes ham. Like, Jamie ends up playing her Shot Out of the Dark episode 1. She doesn't care if people, need a vote or not. That makes Matthew very nervous. He ends up playing a Shot in the Dark, and Brandon's like, hey, I've just lost my boy in the vote. I might have to play my idol. And he correctly plays his idol. So many people just go balls to the wall. Episode 1, no trust in anyone. 2 people vote on Brandon. I assume that's maybe Maddie and Kane. I'm not too sure. And then with 1 vote, yeah, it would have been Maddie and Kane, because I don't think anybody else had a vote. And then Brandon, with 1 vote to eliminates Maddie in this episode, which I think is a good call because she was coming for him. Anyways, what an exciting premiere. We're going to be doing this whole season. Every single episode, I'll have my top 5 takes. I'll have the review and recap with Jake. So be sure to subscribe, hit like, help this channel grow, comment below. And for now, grab your torches, head back to camp. I'll catch you guys next time.